Hey, I'm going to show you guys how to diagnose a brake problem on your vehicle. The first thing we're going to do is check your brake fluid level, and the reason for that is there's two types of failures with brakes. There's a leak where you're losing pressure, so there's no pressure, so when you hit the brake pedal there's no pressure for the calipers, or there's an internal problem and it's internally leaking, which is also giving you the same effect, which is no pressure, or it could be an ABS problem with your anti-lock braking system. Customer states that there was no brake pressure, no brakes coming in to the shop today, so that's what we're going to look at. So your brake fluid reservoir will always be on the driver's side of the vehicle, and the reason is because that's where your brake pedal is. It's on the driver's side, and there's a rod that comes right through the back of this thing into your brake booster and pushes the brake fluid like a kind of like a hydraulic piston. If we look at this one, look at that. She is low. So that tells us that there is a leak, a leaking brake line or something on this vehicle. So we need to figure out where that is. Pretty much bone dry. So now what we're gonna do, and I totally understand not everyone has a hoist. You don't need one. You can do this with a floor jack or just get under your car and look. You can generally see. We're gonna see if there's any obvious brake fluid leaks, because there's definitely a leak. We're gonna find it, and that'll tell us where our problem is. So this is a caliper we're looking at here. Now this piece right here is called your rotor, and you can see a picture of what a rotor looks like. Pretty much what the caliper does is it squeezes the rotor, which stops your vehicle, stops the wheel from turning. So generally what we're looking for is this rubber hose right here that comes down. That's what feeds brake fluid into your caliper. And when you push your brake pedal, this pressures up and puts pressure on your caliper. And generally those things are the main culprit, but this one looks fine. Sometimes the caliper can actually cause problems too. There's pistons behind here and there's seals on those pistons. If they start leaking, you will get problems. And so what you need to do is replace the whole caliper. And generally they actually aren't too expensive. This one looks fine. I don't see any leaks. I don't see any obvious leaks. You will always see fluid here on your tire if there is a leak in your caliper or anywhere around here, because it drains down and then comes down here. I don't see anything here. Let's look at the back. Does it look fine? Yes. Now, if we come over here, look at this. So brake fluid is kind of this brown color. We're looking at it. Do we see any leaks coming from that hose? Up there? No, we don't. But look, from the bottom of the caliper, we see fluid coming out. And so that means that internally, this caliper has failed and it needs to be replaced. So let's say all your calipers are fine. Your brake fluid is low and you still haven't found the leak. The next place you're gonna wanna look is along the frame rail. It varies on the vehicle. But if you see those two lines right there, those black lines, those are the rear brake lines for this vehicle. Sometimes they're on the inside of the frame, sometimes they're on the outside, but on this one, for example, they're right here and they run up here to another module and then they run back here. And what you're looking for is fittings that look like that. Lots of times they will leak, they will rust, and that will be the culprit of your problem. So if it is leaking from a line, you need to get that line replaced. And here is my opinion. If you are not a mechanic, you should take this to a mechanic shop and get it done. If you have mechanical ability, you can do it yourself, but you have to properly bleed your brake system after, or else it won't work. Here's why. When you put a new part on, you are introducing air to your hydraulic system. And if there is an air pocket inside of your brake system, when you go to push your brakes, all you're doing is compressing the air and not actually pushing the fluid through the lines. So if you don't do it properly, if you put your new parts on and you don't get the air out of the system, your brakes will not work. So if you are a mechanic, I'm sure you can figure it out, but if you are not a mechanic, take it to a shop. Brake repairs are generally not a big deal. Can be done in less than an hour. That's what I'd recommend. Hopefully this video helps you out. And yeah, and I will add that if there is no leak and your brakes still aren't working, it probably has to do with your master cylinder. Now your master cylinder is underneath your brake fluid reservoir. and they have seals internally, and if those seals leak, you'll lose your brakes. You won't lose any fluid, but it will not create any pressure. 9 out of 10 times when your brakes fail and there's no leaking under the vehicle like this one, it is because of your master cylinder. I will add this on. This is not professional advice. This is just advice if you are in a bind. If you take a set of vice grips and clamp off the line, the rubber line or the steel line that is leaking, if you know what I'm saying, if you don't understand what I'm saying, then this is not for you. But if you do that, you can usually clamp it off and get yourself enough pressure to get back to the shop. That's all I'll add.